Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm really glad you're here today because what we're about to talk about is one of those programs that sounds simple at first, but if you don't understand the details, you could completely miss out. And that's exactly why this matters right now. Over the past few weeks, you may have heard people talking about a so-called Trump account that comes with a $1,000 deposit for children. Some headlines make it sound automatic. Others make it sound like free money with no effort. But here's the truth, and this is important. Nothing about this program works unless you take action. This is not a rumor. This is not a promise for the future. This is a real federal program that already exists, but it's layered, technical, and honestly not explained very well. That's why many families are confused, and why some will miss it entirely. So let's slow this down and break it apart clearly. The Trump Account program was created under a major federal law signed in July 2025. The idea is simple in theory. Give children a financial head start early in life by placing a one-time government deposit into a long-term investment account. The amount, $1,000 per eligible child. That money is not a loan. It does not have to be paid back. It's not tied to income taxes owed. But, and this is where most people get tripped up, it is not automatic. If you don't open the account, the money never shows up. The account itself is designed for long-term growth. This is not a savings account you can tap into next month. It's an investment-based account tied to the US stock market. The goal is to let time do the work, allowing that initial deposit to grow over many years. Now, eligibility matters a lot here. The federal $1,000 deposit only applies to children who are US citizens and who were born within a very specific time window, from January 1st, 2025 through December 31, 2028. If your child was born even one day before that window, they do not qualify for the government's $1,000. And yes, that has frustrated a lot of families. But before you tune out, there's more to this story, especially for families with older kids, and we'll get to that. Assuming your child does fall into that window, the next question is obvious. How do you actually claim the money? Here's the key step most people don't know about. You must actively elect to open the account. That means filing a specific IRS form when you do your taxes. There is no default enrollment, no automatic setup, no quiet deposit that appears later. If you don't raise your hand and say yes, the government does nothing. There is also supposed to be an online enrollment option launching in the future, but again, it still requires action on your part. No action means no account. No account means no deposit. Once you make that election, the setup process continues over time. The government does not instantly send the $1,000. Instead, the deposit is processed once the account infrastructure is fully established. That's expected to roll out in stages. Now, let's talk about what kind of account this actually is, because that matters more than people realize. The law strictly limits how the money can be invested. You can't choose individual stocks. You can't hold cash. You can't move it into real estate, crypto, or anything exotic. The funds must be invested in a low-cost US stock market index fund with very low fees. Withdrawals are restricted until adulthood, and even then, rules apply. This is not emergency money. This is not grocery money. This is future-focused money. And that design choice is exactly why some experts support the program and others criticize it. What families can add on their own, why some experts say, be careful, and the surprising private money that could still benefit millions of children who don't qualify for the $1,000. Now let's talk about the part almost no one explains clearly, what happens beyond the $1,000, and who else might still benefit even if their child doesn't qualify for the government deposit. First, contributions. Families are allowed to add their own money to these Trump accounts, up to a yearly limit. Employers can also contribute on behalf of parents. On paper, that sounds generous. But this is where many financial experts pause and urge caution. Just because you can add your own money doesn't always mean you should. Why? Because these accounts have strict rules, limited investment choices, withdrawal restrictions, and when money is eventually taken out, it may be taxed as regular income rather than at lower capital gains rates. For many families, other savings tools may offer more flexibility. That's why the most common expert advice sounds like this. Claim the free government money if you qualify, but think carefully before adding your own. Now let's talk about families who felt left out at first. If your child was born before 2025, you may have assumed this entire program doesn't apply to you. But here's the part that surprised a lot of people. In late 2025, a massive private initiative was announced by major philanthropists aimed at expanding access to these accounts. This private funding provides additional deposits for millions of children who are under age 10, even if they don't qualify for the government's $1,000. The amount is smaller, but it's still real money. And here's the critical part again. The account still has to be opened. No account. No private deposit either. Eligibility for this private funding is based largely on age and geographic income data, and the income threshold is higher than many people expect, meaning a large number of families may qualify without realizing it. This is why awareness matters so much. Researchers have found that even modest deposits can change how families plan, save, and think about the future. It's not just the dollar amount, it's the signal that something exists for the child long term. At the same time, there are real criticisms. Programs that require active enrollment almost always leave people behind. When enrollment isn't automatic, participation drops sharply. Experts estimate that without aggressive outreach, fewer than half of eligible families may ever open these accounts. That means millions of children could miss out, not because they weren't eligible, but because their families didn't hear about it, misunderstood it, or assumed it would happen automatically. And it's also important to be honest about what this program does not do. It does not help families who need money right now. It does not replace food assistance, housing help, or medical support. It's a long-term policy choice, not a short-term relief program. So what should you do if you have young children, especially those born between 2025 and 2028? This is something you should not ignore. Check eligibility, watch for IRS guidance, ask your tax preparer, set reminders if you have to. Quiet programs like this don't come with flashing alerts. They only work if you pay attention. Over time, that $1,000 or even a smaller private contribution could grow into several $1,000s depending on market performance. There are no guarantees, but historically, long-term investing has rewarded patience. The future of this program will depend on how it's implemented, how well it's explained, and whether enrollment becomes easier. Until then, the responsibility falls on families to stay informed. Sometimes the biggest financial opportunities aren't loud, they're quiet, and they only help if you know they exist.